Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tip. My name is Julian, and I am so excited right now. I hit my goal of 1,000 subscribers before the NHL season even started this year. I'm so stoked. Thank you so much to everyone who subscribes, who follows me. I really appreciate all of your support, guys. Now that I've reached my goal, it's time to set a new one. Do you guys think that we could hit 2,000 subs before the end of the hockey season? I hope so, guys. That is my new goal. Jumping now into this episode's content, and we're going to be talking about players that you could potentially drop from your team to add players on your waiver wire that might have a little bit more upside. Now, this video is a drops video, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to drop those players right away. A lot of these players, I'm going to tell you, they're someone that I'm looking to potentially drop if they don't perform, but I'm not dropping them right away, right? You drafted these players, you might as well see if they do end up hitting. They're just players I'm not super high on. For example, the first guy on my list is Pavel Buchnevich, who's 75% owned. I'm not necessarily recommending you drop him right away, but right now he's playing on the second or third line, whatever you call that line with Braden Shen and Jordan Carew. That's a decent line, but Buchnevich did so well last year because he was playing on an elite line with Mika Zibanejad, and Buchnevich also isn't getting top power play time, so I don't think his upside is that huge this year. 75% owned might be a lot. That being said, maybe he does tear it up with his new team. I haven't seen it yet. Obviously, the regular season has not started, so I'm not dropping Buchnevich yet. He's just someone I'm looking to drop if he doesn't produce within the first week or two. Next is Jean-Gabriel Pageau of the New York Islanders, who's 54% owned, and I think that ownership percentage is just a little bit high. The dude's a third liner with Wahlstrom and Parise, and probably won't see a lot of top power play time this year. He'll see second power play time, but I don't really see him producing that many points, maybe a point every couple of games at best. To me, he shouldn't necessarily be 54% owned. Where I do like Pageau is categories leagues, because he will win you faceoffs, he will get you hits, and he will still put up a point every 2 games. So in categories leagues, Pageau is a perfectly fine player to have on your team. In more point-based leagues, he's okay. If you have hits in your league, he's a little bit better. But if it's point-based league without hits, you shouldn't really be owning Pageau, and I'd probably consider dropping him in those types of leagues, especially since center is such an easy position to find players anyway. Next is Jacob Vrana, and he's out 4 months with an injury, and so basically he's gone until probably after the Olympic break, which only ends on February 20th. So if you're in a league that has a lot of IR spots and you could hold them until then, sure, I would hold Jacob Vrana, but otherwise, if you have him on like a bench spot and you have maybe some other IRs, I'm not holding on to Jacob Vrana. He's just going to cost you probably a couple weeks where you can actually have a player on your bench that could actually get you points, right? And next is Kirby Dach, and he's not someone I'm dropping right away, but he's someone I'm gluing to my bench if I have any other options a night that he's playing. Right now, Chicago's playing him only on the second power play and on their third line. Kirby Dach was a number 3 overall pick. Why he's not playing on the top line with Patrick Kane and DeBrincat is beyond me. It doesn't make any sense at all. They're playing Tyler Johnson in that role. But if he sticks to that third line spot, he's not going to have a whole lot of upside this year. So I don't love him. And if that doesn't change in the first couple of weeks, he's someone that I would definitely consider dropping from my team. Jumping into some defensemen that I would consider dropping now. And first on the list is Ty Smith. Now, why Ty Smith is 61% owned is beyond me. It doesn't make any sense, in my opinion. He only had 23 points in 48 games last year with top power play time. And he basically had no peripherals last year, so you're not going to get any hits or shots or blocks really from him. And this year, he's going to lose the top power play to Dougie Hamilton. Last year in standard points leagues, he was around the 100th best defenseman, and in hitting league, he was more around the 140th best defenseman. So this year, he's going to lose that top power play and probably not score a whole lot of points at all. Yeah, 61% owned is an absolute joke. If there's anybody else available on that waiver wire, I would probably grab him over Ty Smith this year. Really not high on him at all. Next is Matt Grzelcyk, who's someone that I liked a lot last year. Why did I like him last year? Well, because he was getting that top power play time with Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak. This year, It looks like McAvoy is going to get that first shot on the top power play. This actually makes McAvoy quite valuable this year. I didn't think he was going to be necessarily that valuable this year, but hey, now that he's there, McAvoy's got some real value. Grzelcyk, unfortunately, is now relegated to second power play duties with guys like Craig Smith, DeBrusk, Holla, and Foligno, which isn't the best second power play in the world, and I don't necessarily think they're going to get a lot of power play time. So Grzelcyk may not do that well this year. So if there's someone else on the waiver wire that has a better shot of getting points, I'd probably grab them. That being said, if you're in a deep league and there's nobody else, Grzelcyk could still get a shot on that top power play, so you don't necessarily have to drop him right away. Next is Jacob Slavin, and for those of you that drafted Slavin, the 45% of you, what exactly are you expecting? He's not slated to play on either power play in Carolina. The only kind of peripheral he really gets is blocks. He was 30th in the league in blocks, which isn't bad, and he shoots about twice per game, but it's pretty hard to justify 45% own for Slavin, right? He's not going to get a lot of points. If you have him just for the block shots and for shots on goal, I guess I could see him being owned in maybe 10, 15, even 20% of leagues. But with 45% owned, people are going to be expecting him to score points, and he's just not going to do that unless suddenly he gets put on the power play where he isn't right now. Next, I was going to have Ryan Suter here, but I noticed that he's going to be probably playing on that second power play in Dallas, which may get a good amount of power play time because Seguin is back and healthy this year. So I'm not dropping Ryan Suter just yet. We'll see how he does on that second unit. Next is Mike Riley of the Boston Bruins, and last year he had a pretty good stretch when he was traded to Boston. Both Grzelcyk and McAvoy were injured, so Mike Riley got to play on that top power play in Boston, which made him a pretty decent pickup. The thing is, both McAvoy and Grzelcyk are healthy right now, and Mike Riley does basically nothing in terms of peripherals. So for those of you that drafted him, I'm not really sure what you're expecting here. Yeah, Grzelcyk gets injured pretty often, so as soon as Grzelcyk does get injured, Mike Riley could slot into that second power play. But that second power play isn't that great in Boston anyway, so Mike Riley is a pretty easy drop for me. Next is Duncan freaking Keith, and he's going to shoot the puck. He's going to block some shots, but if you're expecting points for him, yeah, it's just not going to happen. He's not going to get any power play time in Edmonton. And last year, he managed just 9 points in 54 games, not on the power play with Chicago. So I'm really not expecting big things from him. If you're really desperate for some block shots and some shots on goal, I guess you can hold them. But honestly, there are probably better options out there for you. Next is Alexander Romanov of the Montreal Canadiens, and last year he didn't do that great offensively like a lot of people may have been expecting. The only thing he did very well was he hit people a lot. Last year he was 23rd in the league in hits, and this year I'm expecting kind of the same thing. I'm not really expecting some offense from him. I was when I released my Montreal Canadiens video because I thought that he was going to be getting that second power play time in Montreal. And I think in Montreal, both power plays will play a lot. But it looks like it might be Dennis Wideman getting that second power play time in Montreal. So Romanov doesn't have that much offensive upside. And if you have him just for the hits, for a bangers league or for a categories league, and you really need hits for a week or whatever, that's fine. But if you're expecting offense from him, you can go ahead and drop him. Moving on to goalies now, and I have all 4 Dallas goalies written down here, and it's such a disaster in Dallas. Why do you have 4 goalies? Why do you have to make it such a headache for us to know who's going to be starting a game? Like, why is it so complicated in Dallas? If I had to guess, Ottinger could be sent to the minors without clearing waivers, so they might just do that and get him some games in the AHL. And then Khudobin and Holtby would split starts. But honestly, I have no idea if that's going to actually happen. Once Ben Bishop gets back, you have another 3 goalies to deal with. It's just such a headache. If you drafted these guys and there's another starting goalie available on your waiver wire, I might go and grab them. If you want to hold on to them, you could. Khudobin could still end up getting a good percentage of the games. So could Holtby. So could Ottinger. But I just don't like the situation. Let's wait and see who ends up getting starts week 1. If Khudobin ends up getting 2 out of their 3 starts, maybe he ends up being the starter. Maybe he's someone you could end up actually picking up. But for now, I'm not a big fan of this situation at all. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hope you guys enjoyed the content. And I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.